If you're designing a cabin in New Zealand, this is the most people skip, and that's the reason many projects fail before they even start. Before choosing a site or layout, you need to understand what you're actually allowed to build on your site. In this video, I'll walk you through how to create a basic site plan, how to calculate the building coverage area, how to calculate the impervious areas, how to find out your setback rules and height to boundary rules, and how zoning rules affect your design. I also compare two real scenarios: a big site where you have flexibility to build what you want, and a subdivided smaller site where you may not be allowed to build anything at all. This is episode 2 of a new series where I design a cabin step by step under New Zealand rules. In the last episode, I discussed if and under which conditions you're allowed to design your own building. In next episode, I will talk about how to choose the right size and layout for your cabin. But before you even think about things like what size cabin should I build? Should I go to 30 square meter or should I build a 10 square meter? What's the best length and width for my requirement? You need to start with this. You need to start drawing a site plan. It is very likely that you have a site plan in your LIM report or property file, but in some cases, for example, if your property is an older property, or if there are buildings that are not consented on your property, whether legal or illegal, the site plan in the LIM report might not reflect the reality. In that case, you need to draw up a site plan yourself. So in this episode, I'm going to draw up a site plan step by step and explain everything with you. I will give you two different scenarios and compare the two with each other. This section is a large 1000 square meter section. It's 25 meter by 40 meters and it has a house and garage at the very front. The house has 156 square meter footprint and the garage is another 48 square meter. There's a swimming pool which is 10 meters by 3 meters and the cabana which is 4 meters by 3 meters, and the cabana has a 3 meter veranda at the front. There's a small 3 meter by 2 meter garden shed at the back of the section. There's a big concreted area here in front of the garage and a small paved walkway at the entry. The house and swimming pool and cabana are all joined together by a slated timber deck. Once you draw up all the important structures and landscaped areas, it's time to calculate some important numbers. First one is calculating the building coverage. Building coverage is the portions of your site that are buildings or roof structures such as veranda. Based on the unitary plan, these are the things that you need to calculate if you want to calculate your building coverage. Overhanging or cantilevered part of the building. Any part of eaves or spousing that project more than 750 millimeters from the wall. So if your eaves are, for example, 600 millimeters, you don't need to include them in your building coverage. Any accessory buildings such as sleep out, garden shed, in this example cabana and its veranda. The building coverage does not include uncovered swimming pools, pergolas, which are very similar to veranda but they don't have an actual roof, uncovered slated deck, and any open structure that is not building. Might be a playground for your kids, for example. So in our example, building coverage is the house, which is 156 square meter, plus the garage, which is 48 square meter. Cabana is veranda, which is 24 square meter together. Garden shed, which is 6 square meter, and it all comes to 234 square meter, which is 23.4% of the site area. Next step is to calculate the impervious area. Now let's look at the definition of permeable and impervious area. In basic terms, permeable surfaces allow water to penetrate and impermeable areas do not. A site will be made up of both of these surface types. For example, grass and planted areas will be permeable, and driveways and concrete pathways will be impervious. These are some examples of what would be included in the impervious area. Roof, which we actually covered in the last section under building coverage. So any building coverage is included in impervious area as well. Paved areas, including driveways and sealed compacted gravel areas. Patios, unless they are designed with specific permeable materials, sealed and compacted metal rolls, and layers engineered to be impermeable, such as compacted clay. So what do we not include in impervious area? These are areas such as grass and planted areas, gardens and vegetated areas, porous and permeable paving and living roof, permeable artificial surfaces such as artificial grass, slated decks, swimming pools, pond and dammed water, and rain tank. So based on this, our impervious area is the building coverage, which is 234 square meter, plus the concreted driveway, which is 110 square meter, plus the paved walkway, which is 10 square meter. It all comes to 354 square meter, which is 35.4% of the site area. Now we need to find the zone of our property. Normally you can find this from your local city council website. If you have difficulty finding this, you can always ring or email your city council. It is very likely that it is actually in your LIM report as well. The section in our example is located in the residential single house zone of Oakland. Looking at the zone rules, these are some important parts of the zone rules that we need to comply with. Number 1, maximum building coverage. In our example, this is 35%. Number 2, maximum impervious area. In our example, this is 60%. Number 3, yard, or what some people call setback. In our example, the front yard is minimum of 3 meters and the side and back yards are a minimum of 1 meter. Number 4, height in relation to boundary. In our example, it is 2.5 meters plus 45 degrees, up to 8 meters in height. Just note that just because the zone rules say that the maximum height of the building is 8 meters, it doesn't mean that we're allowed to build an exempted cabin that is 8 meters in height, because the exemptions only allows the cabin to be 3.5 meters from its finished floor. Now it's time to look at these rules one by one. Looking at rule number 1, building coverage, the maximum we are allowed to build on this side is 350 square meter, the 35%. Our existing building coverage is 234 or 23.4%. This means that we can actually add another 116 square meter before we reach the maximum building coverage. It does not mean that we can build a building that is 116 square meter, but what it means is we can build as many buildings that are under 30 square meter until we reach the 116 square meter for the total footprint of these buildings together. The existing impervious area in this site is 354 square meter. The maximum allowed is 600 square meter. So we can add another 246 square meter to this area. This means that even if we built a few under 30 square meter cabins, that the total footprint of those are maximum 116 square meter, we still have a lot area left to add to impervious area. This can be veranda, it can be paved areas, and any impervious landscape area such as concrete. So you can see the site is actually very flexible, and you have a lot of freedom in choosing which size and layout you want to have for your cabin. All you need to do is join a line a meter from side and back and a meter away from any existing building and structure, and that shows the area that you're allowed to build as long as you stay within the height to boundary rule. Now let's look into the same section, but in this case, the owner has decided to subdivide the land to make some money. So this is the exact same size. The original owner removed the swimming pool and everything at the back of the house. They've also removed the garage and built a single 10 square meter carport here. They've divided the site to two exactly equal sections, 500 square meter each, with a right of way through lot 1. Then they built a small house with a single carport in lot 2. Now let's look at lot 1. The existing building coverage is 175 square meter. The maximum allowed is 175 square meter. So in this case, the owners cannot add anything to the existing building coverage. They might be able to knock down the carport and build a cabin the same size as the existing carport as long as they stay within the 1 meter setback from the boundary line and from the building, but that's all they can do. Now let's look at lot 2. The existing building coverage is 135 square meter. So they're allowed to add another 40 square meter of building coverage. But then you need to calculate the impervious area. In this property, the existing impervious area is 291 square meter because they decided to have a big concreted area, it's low maintenance, they can park a lot of cars on concrete without having to worry about wrecking a lawn. But this decision has created a problem now that the owner decided to add an under 30 square meter cabin because all they can add to the existing impervious area is 9 square meters. But not all in loss. What they can do is they can actually break the concrete driveway, convert parts of it, replace it with some permeable surfaces such as some existing permeable driveways that you can find on the market if you still want to be able to park so many cars in your site, or convert it to garden and lawn. And if you reduce 40 square meter from your existing impermeable area, that means that you can add another 40 square meter to your existing building coverage. This can be either 220 square meter cabins, 130 square meter cabin, 110 square meter cabin, or you might not need 40 square meter. You might only need 15 square meter or 20 square meter. In this section, there is no front yard. The next thing you need to do is to draw a line 1 meter from all the boundaries, and also a line 1 meter away from any existing building and structure. And now this shows the whole area that you can build your cabin in it. Now even the rules allow you to go as close as 1 meter to your boundary. I personally would not recommend it. 1 meter is too tight. It's even too tight for an internal corridor, let alone an outside walkway or corridor. You want to be able to carry big pots and plants. You want to be able to move a lawnmower or a wheelbarrow and make it at least 1.5 meter if you have room. Another advantage that comes with having more setback than the minimum site requirement is you can actually build something a little bit taller, because the closer you get to your boundary, the less height in relation to boundary you have to play with. There's also another important rule that you need to look out in your zone rules, and that's the outlook space rule. Now, I could not find any outlook space rule for Auckland single house residential zone, but there are some zones with that rule, and some of them have, for example, you have to have a 6 meter deep area in front of the main windows, which means that if there's any window in the living room, you cannot build anything closer than 6 meters to that window. So now you understand why the rule says as long as you meet the conditions of the exemption, you're allowed to build a maximum of 30 square meter standalone building in your property. So if you're lucky, if you have a big site with not many restrictions, you might be able to add one or a few under 30 square meter cabins to your property. And sometimes if you're living in a more compacted area and you already have a lot of building coverage compared to the size of your site, you might not be able to add any cabin to your property. Even there are exemption rules, it doesn't mean that everybody can use those exemption rules. If you ignore these conditions and go ahead and build a cabin that does not meet the exemption conditions, you might be fine, but it's most likely that you won't be. What will happen is you might get a complaint from a neighbor, or sometimes the city council compare aerial photos of the properties between now and, for example, 2 years before now, and if they find out there are more building coverage that are not allowed to be added to that property, they will visit the site and they give notice to fix. In some cases, the owner might get fined, and they will also have to knock down the illegal buildings. And in some cases, the council might be a little bit more flexible and give them some ways to be able to keep what they've built. But I would not recommend you to take your chances. So that is all you need to know and to do before deciding about the size and the design and the layout of your under 30 square meter cabin. In the next episode, we are going to start the design process by the first step, and that is deciding the actual size of the cabin that works for you and for your requirement. I hope you found this video helpful. If it was helpful, please give it a thumb up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next episode.